2021 marked a turning point when the yearly global military spending surpassed $2 trillion US. And as others have mentioned, this trend is only worsening as international tensions increase throughout 2022. We are witnessing increased investments in militarization and rearmament from governments right around the world. And as Lucy said, we must address this reality collectively, with the sole priority of the right of citizens to be free from violence and free from conflict. You know, military expenditures should not be thought of just as resources spent on armament, but as resources not spent on education and healthcare and the environment, public facilities, peace, development, science, the arts, or investing in the economy. In this context, this is a very timely gathering to address the activation of a fourth special session of the UN General Assembly on disarmament. And when it comes to disarmament, the role of parliaments may not be the first thing that comes to all of your minds, yet parliaments have a legislative function that translates key UN disarmament and non-proliferation efforts into legislation, which is debated and adopted, and in the process, better understood by the people. Parliaments have an oversight function. They can hold their governments accountable, posing questions in the House or in committees, and examining specific governmental choices. Parliaments pass national budgets and can shed light on the efficiency and effectiveness of public money, raising questions to the government, approving or vetoing those budget bills. Many parliamentarians work to reduce military spending, favoring other considerations for a more human aspect of security, such as education or healthcare. And finally, their representative functions give parliamentarians the ability to carry the voices and concerns of all their citizens, including Grace and the voices of young people, and Bani and the people she's concerned about, and ensure that decisions and legislation reflect their reality and their needs. They can raise awareness about disarmament in their parliaments and in their constituencies, often side by side with NGOs, and they can highlight the lived experience of citizens like Bani impacted by the proliferation of weapons of all sorts. These parliamentary functions can and should be used to promote the activation of a fourth UN General Assembly specialist session devoted to disarmament, lobbying governments to provide support to the working group on convening the fourth special session directly and by engaging constituents, political parties, and civil society organizations. Parliaments and parliamentarians are key stakeholders in this agenda. They represent the people of their countries, people whose first wish is to live in peace and in a secure environment that allows their families to thrive. And to succeed in reaching that aim, parliaments have two major approaches at their disposal. Focus on human security, creating an enabling environment for human development, and extend the concept of security beyond the physical security of people to include health, the economy, political rights, and the environment. And focus on common security. One country's security cannot be achieved at the expense of another's, and joint efforts such as nuclear disarmament, strong limitations on conventional weapons, and reduced military spending are needed. These approaches are key to the IPU's work on peace and security. They're at the core of our disarmament endeavors, because it's been proven that by investing in human and common security are quick ways to ensure prosperity in the long term. Weapons of mass destruction restrict the sustainable resolution of conflicts and constantly threaten the survival of humanity. And because the illicit and illicit proliferation of conventional weapons worsens the conditions of the most vulnerable people in conflict zones and developing nations, significantly increasing the escalation of local, regional, and international disagreements toward armed conflict. So the IPU works in several ways to enhance parliamentary action on disarmament, raising awareness that leads to concrete outcomes. Our efforts to help ensure multiple parliaments reported their annual military spending to the UN Military Expenditure Database following a webinar on the role of MPs in curbing military spending is one example. IPU worked with speakers of several parliaments that had not yet signed or ratified the Arms Trade Treaty. Philippines and Gabon successfully ratified the treaty, and we just got message during this session that Gabon will submit its instrument of ratification next month after a parliamentary champion promoted this action. IPU invited specific parliaments to a roundtable organized by the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization during the 144th Assembly in Nusa Dua just in March, opening concrete channels of communication that facilitated the ratification of the treaty by multiple parliaments. Timor-Leste and Tuvalu were added to the list of ratifying nations, bringing the treaty 2 steps closer to universalization. IPU vigorously promotes the joint publication, Assuring Our Common Future, and you can get that on our website at ipu.org. It's a guide to parliamentary action in support of disarmament for security and sustainable development, raising awareness about the concrete actions parliaments can take on every field of disarmament. And lastly, our webinars engaged hundreds of stakeholders, including parliamentarians and parliamentary staff, and also civil society organizations, government organizations, experts, members of the academia, and other disarmament activists and enthusiasts. We'll continue to assist parliamentarians championing the activation of this 4th special session in their respective parliaments, promoting disarmament as a forward-looking solution to contemporary issues. We remain willing to support disarmament and invite any parliamentarian, as Lucy just did, to reach out and help us raise this issue from their prospective parliaments.